So is Claude 4 going to replace lawyers? Let's find out. So unless you live under a rock, you've heard that Google has released new AI tools.
I learned that today is the start of Gemini season.
And people on YouTube have been raving about just how good the coding tools and the text-to-video tools are. And the new videos that came out of it were nothing short of viral, not only on YouTube, but on other platforms as well.
Born to be bushy, I live off the land, cut my own wood and work with my hands.
Now, Google didn't only release a text-to-video tool, but also a new chat model called Claude Sonnet 4. And today we're going to find out if my job as a lawyer is safe or if I should start sending my resume to McDonald's. By the way, if you're new to this channel, hi, my name is Renaud and I've been a tech lawyer for 15 years and I help businesses close better deals. So in order to judge Claude, we're going to ask something simple. Create a business-to-business software as a service contract and we will rate it 1 to 10 depending on 5 criteria: structure, intellectual property, confidentiality and privacy, limitation of liability, and boilerplate clauses. Of course, there are other important things to analyze, like the fact you should subscribe to this channel, but enough of the chit-chat and let's see what Claude 4 can do. First, the prompt. Okay, so can you draft a B2B SaaS contract? It needs to be a monthly subscription model and have all the usual clauses you find in this type of contract. Now, why a B2B SaaS contract, you ask? Well, there are a number of good reasons for this. First of all, it's a business model everyone is familiar with. If you are subscribed to Netflix, you know what that is. And second, it's a great way to build a business. And finally, let's face it, it's the kind of contract I've negotiated the most, so I know it inside out. Now, for the legal geeks out there, it's also easier to have a standardized business-to-business contract as opposed to a business-to-consumer contract because there are many local consumer laws that could trigger some different reactions from the AI. So we're asking something very basic that an AI should be able to do. Okay, let's take a look at the structure of the agreement first. Okay, it definitely looks good, looks clear. It uses a number of relevant definitions, so it's a good sign. As a side note, other AI tools are performing really well on this aspect, and I will link my other videos somewhere in the screen so you can take a look. So all in all, it looks like a legit basic contract. It is clear, it is well structured, and I think it is worth a 9 out of 10. Now, a crucial part, the intellectual property. You know, businesses spend years building their products, so it is really important to protect that intellectual property they have developed. So the minimum a contract can do is to make sure it is clear to the client that the IP belongs to the company and to make sure that the client doesn't mess up with the IP neither. So let's take a look how Claude 4 drafted this. Okay, so there's an ownership clause saying that the company shall retain all rights, title, and interest in the service, which is the software, including all intellectual property rights. So this is good. Also, there's a feedback clause saying any feedback, suggestion, or improvements provided by customer regarding the service may be used by company without restriction. So I really like the fact that there's a feedback clause. Early startups will receive a lot of feedback from their customers. So it's really important to clarify that the feedback can be used by the company without any restriction. So it's a great way to draft this clause. So the things I see missing from this contract are a definition of intellectual property rights. I know we kind of take this for granted, but since most SaaS operate internationally, it's important to have a definition that will fit in just about any country. And also, I would have liked to see a restriction section to say what the customer cannot do with the software, like not sublicense, don't reverse engineer, don't sell our data to other parties, this kind of stuff. I do have a B2B SaaS contract ready, so I will show you what it should look like. So there you have it, first page, the signature page, and then the order form, the statement of work, or whatever it could be, your shopping cart. And here in section 1.b, you can see the extensive definition of intellectual property rights. This is something you would usually see in any contract. And a little further down, we have section 4 on the restrictions saying that the customer shall not license, sublicense, sell, resell, transfer, assign, distribute, reverse engineer a little further down. This is the type of stuff it is really important to clarify to your clients so that they cannot just start messing around with the intellectual property your company developed. By the way, if you would like a copy of this B2B SaaS contract template, I've put a link in the description below and I give it away for free. So all in all, I would say this is a decent starting point, but there are some elements missing that I think are really important. I would still give a passing grade to Claude, so something like a 6 out of 10. Now, confidentiality and privacy. As you know, since 2018, when the GDPR came in effect in the EU, it definitely changed the landscape internationally with regards to personal data. Many countries started modernizing their laws, and now it's not the Far West anymore with regards to personal data. It's important that your contract has some sort of clauses with regards to privacy. And with regards to confidentiality, reality, well, there's nothing new under the sun. Their clients still expect their information, even if it's not personal data, to be kept confidential. So let's take a look at how Claude 4 handled it. Okay, so there's definitely a confidentiality clause. Each party agrees to maintain the confidentiality of the other party's confidential information and use it solely for the purpose of this agreement. This is a bit basic. Usually you would like to see some exceptions to what confidential information is. I see confidential information to be capitalized, so there is definitely a definition of this up there, which isn't bad. And then it says that the obligation survives termination for 5 years. It's a little long. I think if you have that in your contract, you will see some pushback on this. It would be more standard to have something like a 3 years obligation surviving termination. Then with regards to data and privacy, customer data ownership, it's important. There's a clause with regards to data processing saying company will process customer data in accordance with its privacy policy and applicable data protection laws. It's absolutely essential to have something like that. And if you notice, the privacy policy term has been capitalized, meaning it will refer to another document. I think it is great, but it's also something to keep in mind if you're using an AI and they capitalize terms that wouldn't be otherwise defined. Make sure to put a note to yourself to actually draft this document later so that you can refer to it later. Then there are 2 sections about data security and data backup and recovery. It's fine to have some basic obligation in the main body of the agreement, but usually you would find those clauses in an annex that would be a technical annex to the contract where you list all of those things that it is important for the client to know, like regular maintenance hours, like how to get support, service level credits, this type of stuff. It's usually not found in the main body of the agreement, but it's fine to have something in there. By the way, I started a newsletter to keep my people informed of the new development in tech law, to also announce when I release new free contracts, and to keep people in the loop with my new development. As you may or may not know, and you definitely don't know because it's such a new channel, 2025 is a very crucial year for me because I decided to rebuild my law firm from the ground up, and I would love to keep you in touch with that journey. So if you would like that, just take a look at the link in the description below. So with regards to confidentiality and privacy, I would say Claude did a decent job there, so I would give out a 7 out of 10. And now a very important part, limitation of liability. Limitation of liability is on equal footing with intellectual property. It is such an important clause to have in a contract. The reason is that if you're licensing your software $2,000 a year to a client, but then the client can sue you for $2 million if things go south, well then it's a sure fast track to bankruptcy. So you want to make sure that your contracts do contain a limitation of liability to limit the risk that you're incurring when you're doing business with a client. So let's take a look at how Claude 4 handled it. Okay, so here it is. In no event shall either party be liable for indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or punitive damages. This is fine, but here's the important part. Companies' total liability shall not exceed the fees paid by customers in the 12 months preceding the claim. So this is really good for 2 reasons. First, because it ties the limitation of liability value to the amount that was actually paid, not the amount that was invoiced, the amount that was actually paid to the client. So if a client never actually pays you, well, your liability for a regular contract breach would be 0. And second, the total amount is evaluated for the 12 months preceding a claim, which is quite standard for a SaaS contract, so I really like this. Of course, there is a lot more stuff to be said about a limitation of liability section, but I could do a whole other video just on this topic, and who knows, maybe one day there will be a link to this video somewhere on the screen here. So all in all, I'm really happy with what I see. This is basic again, but definitely hits the mark and will control the risk for the companies that are using AI to draft their contract. So I would give Claude 4 an 8 out of 10 on this one. And finally, the boilerplate section. This is one that is regularly overlooked because it's kind of in the general or miscellaneous section at the end of a contract, but it does contain some key things for startup. For example, the assignment section. The assignment section, usually what you want to see in there is saying that the contract will survive in the event there is a merger or an acquisition. You don't need to ask permission for it. If you get bought out by a big company, then you want to make sure that your contract is surviving the transaction. If all of your contracts go down the drain in the event of a transaction, well, so goes your company value. So you want to have something in there. So let's take a look at how Claude 4 addressed this. Okay, so right off the bat, I see that there's a dispute resolution section, and I really like that because startups are going to try to save as much money as possible, especially on litigation. Early litigation could kill a new startup, so it's important to have a clause like this that says something about mediation or arbitration before you actually incur the cost of going to the courts. So it's actually a really good section to have in there. I really like what I see. Now here's the assignment clause. Neither party may assign this agreement without the other party's written consent. This is fine, except except, and this is the key, company may assign to an affiliate or in connection with a merger or an acquisition. So this is great. This is exactly what I was talking about. I'm really happy to see that in there. So all in all, I think Claude 4 marked 2 big points here with the dispute resolution section and the assignment section. And so for this, I would give Claude 4 a 9 out of 10. So it's already time for the final verdict, and if you have watched this video so far, you are the boss. If you would like to drop me a like and follow, I would really appreciate it. It helps this channel so much. So I think it's pretty evident that Claude 4 performed really well on this assignment. Some areas were lacking a bit, but other were pretty decent. So I think it deserves an overall score of 8 out of 10. So that's it for me today. Thank you, and see you in the next one.